You're listening to In Sickness, a caregiving podcast from the Negative Space with Allison Breininger and Justin Bima. Good morning, Allison.
Hey, Justin. Today we have with us Jill Thompson from Inheritance of Hope, and she's going to talk with us about the topic of legacy. Welcome, Jill. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Jill, can you tell us about what legacy means in the context of what we're going to talk about here today?
Yes. Well, I think all of us realize that we are building a legacy, whether we're intentional about it or not, right? There's a way that we will be remembered someday. And I like to think of legacy like a tree. And so we all have a tree, and then we have these roots that are deep and wide. And I like to think of legacy as the people that will benefit from the shade of our tree and the fruit of our tree long after we're gone. And so for me, that's a pretty powerful image of what legacy is. And today we get to explore some very tangible, practical ways that we can build our legacy. I think sometimes people think about leaving a legacy, and certainly there's a element of that. You know, it's something that outlasts us. But we today, through life, get to build something. And I think that's something that we're going to explore today, just with intentionality, building something that then we one day get to leave.
I kind of want to just sit with that for a minute, that tree analogy before we go further, because you said, so the branches and the shade is what is left over, but say again about the roots.
Yeah, so the roots are what allows the tree to stand long, you know, with storms of life and seasons of life. And those roots are what keep the tree anchored. And so I just love, like, I live in Florida. We have these big oak trees. And when I see that tree, I'm like, that's been there for hundreds of years, right? And it started with like an acorn. It grew these roots. And like, we have hurricanes here, and they like tear apart lots of other less rooted trees. But these trees that have the deep, wide roots are the ones that last for hundreds of years. And so that's what I want to be to those around me, the people I love. And when I think of legacy, that's kind of the image that really sits with me for all of us. How will we be remembered? What will we do to leave our mark on this world and to make a difference for those people that come after us? And so it's like those solid rooted, long standing oak trees that that's the roots that are they're doing the hard work down there.
That's beautiful. Okay, thank you.
So Jill, I believe it was your friend who founded Inheritance of Hope and inspired this concept of helping people share their legacy. Is that correct?
Yes, my dear friend Kristen Milligan she was diagnosed with terminal liver cancer. She happened to find out it was malignant cancer on her 30th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, her children were 6 months, 2 and 4.
Oh, wow.
And so imagine, you know, being a parent is hard enough, but to get this terminal diagnosis and doctors say, like, there's not really any treatment options. You probably don't have much time. And she was sort of stricken with this thought of like, what if I'm not around for these big events and milestones in my kid's life? And we were both young moms at the time, just doing our best to raise these little ones. And she started to be very intentional with building her legacy. So she did some of the things that we're going to talk about today, like some practical things. But what I love, and I'll share this part of it now, you know, her kids are young adults now. And I see how she is still, she passed away in 2012. So she ended up living 9 more years after.
Wow.
Yeah, which was a miracle. I mean, it's such a gift. So, but still she passed away at age 39, which is very young. And her children at that time were 9, 11, and 13. So, you know, it's very primitive. It's like these years when you need your mama. And she is still very much an active part of their lives because of this intentionality that she put into practice in those 9 years. And so, I mean, I can't help but be a huge ambassador for legacy because I see it in her children, in the lives of their family, but also in the work we do with Inheritance of Hope, which I'll get to talk about too. I just see time and time again, and in my own life, the power of building something that outlasts you, and then still continuing to be, in her case, mothering her children long after she passed away, which is such a sweet gift.
Can you tell us a little bit about what did that look like? Like, what are some of the things that your friend did to that are, outlasting her, that are continuing to mother her kids.
Right. So she has 2 daughters and a son. The son is the middle child.
Okay.
His name is Luke. And Luke married an amazing woman several years back. She is a delight. And she got to, I'll say in air quotes, meet her mother-in-law through a legacy video, which was a video that Kristen recorded. This was back in the day when recording videos wasn't as easy as it is now.
Okay, sure.
She set up a camera and she recorded some words of, hey, like, if you're marrying my son, you must be pretty awesome. And this is me. I'm his mom. I love him. These are the things I see in him that I value. These are some of his talents and gifts that I appreciate and celebrate. I pray that you take good care of him his whole life. I pray for your children and I pray for your marriage. And she said these words into a camera, but, however many years later, when Luke's soon-to-be wife, fiance, got to watch this, she got to meet her mother-in-law. And now they're actually about to have her first grandbaby, like this week.
Wow.
And there's some things planned. I don't want to ruin any things, but just, she's still part of their life all these years later. This is like 14 years after she died, because of her intentionality, which I love that.
So you're saying that you don't have to spoil it just in case people are listening to the podcast, but you're saying that she has things that she did intentionally for this grandbaby. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And, Kristen, so she started Inheritance of Hope during that 9 years, which was, her way of saying, hey, I'm doing these things for my kids. This is like my top priority is for my 3 children and my husband, who was her caregiver. I'll just say, like, for all you caregivers listening, he had a very hard job taking care of her during those 9 years. And starting a nonprofit, which, huge undertaking. But it was out of this heart of like, oh man, looking around, there are so many other families like ours that have young kids that are navigating really hard illnesses. And we can use some of these things we're learning to help them too. And so that's still what we're doing all these years later. And my heart is particularly soft and tender for the caregivers because I know it is such a grind. I don't know if that's the best terminology, but it's a grind. I love, when Allison and I have talked to, like, the way you guys see and hear caregivers. And I think, like, as we talk about legacy, caregivers are people who are selfless. And I would say, some would say, maybe not by choice.
Sure.
People say, you're such a hero. You're amazing. And you're like, yeah, well, I didn't really want to be a hero.
Exactly.
I didn't really want to be selfless.
Totally.
But still, like, you're building a legacy as you go about those mundane tasks of like taking care of someone you love.
Sure.
But today, I hope everyone's a little bit inspired to maybe take that intentionality a step further, to make it something that is actually kind of fun, exciting, even outside of the mundane, selfless hero lifestyle that you may or may not have signed up for.
Yeah. So I think that's a good point to think about as we go into this conversation, is that it's not just, a person with a terminal illness who should be thinking about their legacy, right? But for all of us.
For sure.
And to be thinking about this as a caregiver, I know that often caregivers, when their person does pass, both that they're like, well, who am I now? Yeah. Right? There's a little bit of an identity crisis. And so, and also I think there can be a piece of, trying to remember their person from the before times. Right. And so I think that as caregivers, if you're listening today, to think about this, it doesn't just have to be for your person, right? It can be for you. It can be for your parents. It can be for anybody. And so how can we have that context for everyone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you give us a little background about, like, what you've mentioned Inheritance of Hope, but, what did that turn into, this nonprofit that they started that came out of this? And what is it that Inheritance of Hope does? Yeah.
So we quickly realized, when someone is diagnosed with a serious illness, it isn't just that person whose life is forever changed. It is all of their loved ones. And in the case of the families we serve, it is their spouse who now becomes a caregiver. It is their children, from the littlest, tiniest one all the way up to the teens and young adults. And so our programs are for the entire family when a parent is diagnosed with a serious illness. So we come alongside the family in lots of different ways. Building a legacy is one of our like heartbeats.
Yeah.
And we do things like legacy retreats where we bring together families from all over the country to make memories together and to interact in groups so that they don't feel isolated or alone. And I'll tell you, when those groups split up, the caregiver group and the diagnosed parent group, this is the time when we say to them, here's where you can talk without your person right there. Yeah. And you can say the things like you maybe can't say in front of them. And man, we usually have to like pull the caregivers out of the room because they don't want to come out. They're just talking so much.
Yep.
But even the kids, like even the little guys, like your mom has cancer too, or your dad has ALS, me too. And just to know I'm not the only kindergartner with a dad who's in a wheelchair or teenager, right? With a mom whose hair is gone or whatever. So that's really powerful, that element of community. Mm-hmm. And so we do legacy retreats. We do Hope at Home groups, which are online groups for all members of these families to connect in their individual groups. We also do like monthly gatherings in person. But something that I think we're experts in is this legacy building intentionality. So we have lots of resources for, like you said, Allison, not just the diagnosed parent or the diagnosed person, but also for their caregiver, their children, their parents. We do believe that everyone should be intentional about building a legacy. I hate to be morbid, but like we don't know what tomorrow brings. Sure. And even if it's not death, like you said, like the loss of the ability to speak the way you once spoke. I mean, sometimes we lose with like brain tumors and other strokes and things like that, you lose that ability to form the words like you once did, or your personality changes because you've been wrecked by surgery, chemo, you're just in a different spot. So I like to think of legacy as just like a snapshot of this time. And it's a treasure. It's a treasure for you and it's a treasure for the people who love you. So we offer something called legacy videos. This is something that is no cost. It is available to anyone in the entire world. It is on our website, which you'll have linked to the show notes, but at inheritanceofhope.org, anyone can click on legacy video and scroll down to the calendar. They can choose the date and time that's convenient for them. And they would meet online with a legacy video coach who is a trained, amazing volunteer with Inheritance of Hope. And that person has much experience with helping someone record a legacy video, which, what is a legacy video? I mean, it can be really anything, but it tends to be recording what matters most to you. So it might be an interview format, recording some stories and memories and traditions that you cherish. Some people choose to read a favorite children's book on the video or sing a favorite family song. Sometimes you're telling stories that perhaps your loved ones have heard over and over again. They're like the favorite family story. Sure. But to have it captured in a video with your mannerisms and your voice and your expressions is a priceless gift. And so we offer that to anybody, and people can make multiple videos if they'd like. We back it up to a password protected cloud. It's a really sweet way to just kind of know that obviously we can all pull out our phones. We can record something, but most people don't. And if they do, then they lose it in their thousands of photos and videos on their phone. And so what we do is take care of all the logistics. So we back it up, we keep it safe. And I'll tell you, we've had people reach out to us years later and they say, I know you guys offer this service. And my mom just passed, and I'm wondering, did she make a video with you guys? And it is the best joy to be able to say, yes, here's the link. Watch it when you're ready. We care about you. We love you. We're praying for you. Here's the link. Yeah. And then the other flip side is when they reach out and they're like, hey, I know you offered this to my mom and she was kind of going back and forth about doing it. Did she end up doing it? And when we have to say oh, I'm so sorry, she didn't. I mean, that's devastating to me because I know that mom probably sacrificed so much for her kids over and over again, carpool and laundry and doctor's appointments. And yet something kept her from recording that video. Right. And so when I'm often talking, especially to parents, I'm like, I know it's hard. I know we don't like videos. It's tough to record what matters most to you, but you do a lot of tough things. You do a lot of tough things every day. So just do this one more tough thing. And if you hate it, you don't have to share it with anybody. But most people, are very, very proud of themselves when they're done with the video.
Yeah.
And it's always nice to have it tucked away for if it's needed. So, yeah.
And there's a second thing that you do, though, isn't there?
Yeah. So in regard to that situation where, they reach out, did they make a video? And we say like, sorry, they didn't. Now we have this new program called Legacy Songs. It's brand new, and it's a beautiful response to that. They didn't make a video, or maybe they did, but it's this ability to make a song for your family unit or yourself that captures your legacy. So you fill out a form and you get to write down some things like favorite family traditions or memories or nicknames. And we have an amazing creative artist. We actually have a couple that create lyrics, and they create a genre of music that your family likes, and they make it into something magical that captures your family legacy. And I can tell you, every legacy song I've ever listened to makes me cry. It's just something about music and lyrics and personal, just personal interaction that makes it so sweet. So we have legacy songs available also, no cost.
Wow.
And this is all because of generous donors. So, nonprofits out there.
Yeah.
We have people who are kind and amazing who allow this to happen so that anyone listening on this podcast can participate.
I love it. Beautiful.
So what have you seen to be the impact on the person who is ill as they're going through this process of recording their legacy?
Well, I think, and I'll speak particularly from Kristen's perspective, because I was very close with her and she's our founder, but I've seen it over and over again. For her, there were so many things taken out of her control. She was sick. She was dying. And doctors were poking, prodding, treating, cutting.
Yeah.
And so all this control is like gone. And also they say, you're going to die. And she just kept hearing it. You're going to die. You're going to die. And she's like, wait a minute. I am a young mom with these 3 little ones looking to me, and I want to fight and I want to live and I want to be here for a long time. So that's what she did. She never gave up. But making these videos was like her way to, when she laid in bed at night and she's like, what if I'm not here for graduation or for their wedding or for these events? She's like, I can do these things that allow me to say, okay, if I'm not here, I have some things tucked away. I feel like I have peace because I've taken control of some of these things that I can do. I'll tell you a fun story. One of the milestones that she chose to commemorate in her legacy building activities was their 13th birthday. She felt like that was a sweet milestone, and her kids, none of them were 13 when she started this process. And so she got a little gift and wrote a little card and wrapped it up and put it in this hope chest for each of them. And when her oldest daughter, Ashley, turned 13, Kristen was still very much alive. And I remember we were together and she's like, I don't even remember what I got her when I wrapped up. I hope it's good because I'm about to give it to her face to face. And so what a sweet thing that, some people say to me, like, I don't want to do this because it feels like I'm giving up. Like my family thinks I'm like tossing in the towel and saying like, I'm not going to be around very much longer. But actually that's not true at all. Like for Kristen, it was her way of getting better sleep and taking care of herself. And then when she was there for Ashley's 13th birthday, she was already prepared for it. She had the perfect gift. And then when Luke turned 13, a couple of years later, Kristen had recently passed. And, being able for Derek, the caregiver, her husband, to be able to reach in that hope chest and pull out that gift for Luke and say, this is from your mom. What a sweet gift. And when Rebecca turned 13 several years later, she said, I kind of thought I'd hear from mom today.
Oh.
And so that's sweet too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So do you see an impact on the person who's building their legacy or recording their legacy rather, knowing that they're leaving this for their loved ones?
Yeah, I think that's the power, right? Because I don't know, you guys might agree or disagree, but to me, grief is just the opposite of love in the same. They're the same thing, grief and love to me. So when someone has passed and your loved ones are grieving, it's the magnitude of the grief to me almost goes with the magnitude of the love. So these people who love hard, grieve hard because they've had such a rich relationship with someone. So to me, the legacy pieces like those keepsakes and those recordings and those gifts and letters are this intentionality of like, yes, I'm still loving you as you cry and as you grieve. I'm still here. And I have a dear friend, Dr. Erica Sarine. She's an expert on continuing bonds, and she's actually the chief social worker at St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And she taught me about continuing bonds. That's when someone you love has passed away, these things that like remind you of them, and their voice and their mannerisms, even like wearing your dad's motorcycle jacket that he used to wear every day, you know, after he's passed. These continuing bonds are like our way of continuing to love someone after they're gone. And that's legacy too. Yeah.
I wonder, because, you know, when you think about this and you're talking a lot about the things that she left behind for the kids, were there things that she left behind for her husband as well? Like, do you see that? I think that people think about, you know, the kids growing up, but, you know, we have a lot of spousal caregivers here that listen. And so is that something that happens too?
Yeah, I would say really anyone you love and care for. I'll just use a personal story. She passed away in October, and that Christmas, I was running Inheritance of Hope with her husband at the time, and we were grieving the loss of this person that we cared deeply for, that had been running the organization with us. Yeah. We were serving families. We were actually at a legacy retreat in New York City the week after she died for 16 families facing terminal illness. And I'll admit it was very challenging. And that Christmas, I was feeling very depleted. I was missing my best friend. I was sad. And her husband, it might make me cry. Yeah. Her husband showed up with this wrapped gift. And I was like, it's Christmas, so thank you. Like, he got me a gift, huh? And then I look at the card, and it was her handwriting on the top that said Jill. And it was this, I know the listeners can't see this, but it's a little canvas picture of me and Kristen together. And it says, like, I consider it pure joy to have a friend like you, Jill, Kristen. And this was what she had wrapped up for me 6 years before that, when doctors said she was terminal. And she said to her husband, give this to Jill the Christmas after I die.
Oh, gosh.
Like, what? You were thinking of me all those years before. Sure, and what a gift. So that, yes, her husband, she did some things for him. Obviously, she did something for me. There's a few other things she's done for me as well. Also for her mom and her sister. So yeah, that intentionality. I do want to pause here for a second, because I'm sure some people listening are like, wow, she sounded like an amazing person. And like, also like, I don't really have time for all of that. I know
energy,
right? Energy. Many people thinking of this, like, my to-do list is a mile long, and this lady Jill is giving me more things to my to-do list. Like, totally. I'm going to turn off this podcast right now. Yeah. And I'll just say, as an encouragement to those folks, I know your to-do list is long and you feel overwhelmed. And I just want to say, even if there's like one small step, for example, the legacy video, where you don't really have to do anything but show up for a Zoom call with one of our coaches. One step, and then maybe another step later. And it'll help you to actually alleviate some of the things on your to-do list, to take some of that stress off of your shoulders of like, am I doing enough to help my loved one who I'm caring for be remembered and celebrated, or my own self, I'm just drowning in caregiving. I don't know if anyone's going to remember me except for like a haggard, kind of grumpy and tired person. I get that. Like, I'm with caregivers all the time, and I feel that pain. But everyone I've talked to is like, oh, once we've done that, we feel like we've done something, and we can kind of just like breathe a little bit, like tuck that away and cherish that when we need it.
Yeah. Because we talk a lot here about the term anticipatory grief. Is that something you're familiar with?
Very.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. And so I just think about that too. Like, we talk about like calendar dates, you know, like timestamps, right? So if it's like New Year's or Thanksgiving, and then you're looking around thinking like, who at this table is going to be here next year at Thanksgiving, right? And so you're thinking about these things in advance. And so I just wonder if knowing like, okay, if this person might not be at this table next Thanksgiving, but we'll get to watch this video, or we'll have this, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like this has the potential of maybe alleviating, not erasing, but alleviating the anticipatory grief a little bit, to be like, okay, you know, because when I do workshops on anticipatory grief, we talk about baby showers and graduations and all of these milestones and how those can bring things up, because it makes us think, is my person ever going to see this cranberry baby? Is my person ever going to, you know? And so to be like, okay, they might not, and there's a way for them still to be present, you know, and then that might soothe a little bit of the anticipatory grief potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, for everyone involved, like you said, for the diagnosed person who's struggling with the what if I'm not here.
Yeah.
And for the caregiver and the additional family members. Yeah, for everyone wins, I think, if you just take a little bit of intentionality to build that.
Yeah. What if you're a caregiver listening and you're like, oh, I really want my person to do this. And it might feel a little, you said this, anybody can do this, but I think that people often might think of this in terms of, okay, we want you to do this so that when you're gone, right? And so that could be a hard conversation to bring up. They might feel a little apprehensive about that. Yeah. Do you have any advice for a way that, like, if a caregiver or a family member is listening and would really like their family member to consider something like this, that they could broach the subject?
Yeah. Yeah. I think my first piece of advice would be to do one yourself.
Interesting.
I think that's, it bridges the gap of like, I don't have a diagnosis. I'm going to do it first. And also it gives you the experience. So when you go to your person, you say, I did it. This is how it felt for me. And it wasn't as hard as I thought. It was maybe fun. And then you actually have experience. So that's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is a little, I don't know, maybe it's not manipulative at all, but I would say if there is a little person or a child or a kid or someone that has their heart like wrapped around their finger, for that person, even if it's a 30-year-old person that's wrapped around their finger, to be able to say, like, this would mean a lot to me if you would do this. And most parents,
have the little person say, or
the big little person. I'd say, especially for parents, even if they're 80, if their 60-year-old daughter or 50-year-old daughter or whoever says to them, like, this would mean a lot to me, I'd say, that would be a powerful tool. Yeah. But I do think if you're going to ask someone to do it, it's important for you to do it first.
Yeah. I think you're right, because that sort of, it's not like you need to do this because you have a terminal, right? It's more like, this is a thing that we should be doing, or that we can consider doing. And yeah. I'm thinking of, because, we have a robust listeners, like really loyal listeners. And so as I have these conversations, I'm always thinking of specific people that I know are going to listen. And so I'm thinking of one person who, her loved one has ALS, and he's at a point where communication is more challenging. Yeah. Another person who her husband has a brain injury. And so for him to like string together sentences is tricky, right? We have a lot of people who are listening whose loved ones have ME/CFS. And so energy is it can be scarce. And so what, it could, to get on a video and to talk, or to even be interviewed for a song might feel daunting or maybe, unreachable for some of those folks. Are there ways around that? Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll speak specifically first to the ALS. We serve a lot of ALS families in Inheritance of Hope. And I'll say, for that friend that's listening, if you have children in the home that are 18 and under, like, please look out for Inheritance of Hope, because we have some programs specifically for your family, and we would love to serve you in all those ways. But we also have technology. We help ALS patients make legacy videos all the time. Sometimes they use their eye gaze computer to type. Sometimes we also have a software that will take old videos of them and create their voice for the video. So we're happy to do that, and we're capable to do that. We've also had a few scenarios where ALS patients have typed out what they want to say with their eyes, and then they have a loved one read it for them. So we're very happy to be creative and to work around the different scenarios, particularly brain tumors and other aphasia disorders that cause like inability to find words. There's times where we have another loved one on the call with that person, and that loved one can tell stories like, remember when we met? Remember when we found out we were expecting our children? And so sometimes it's the spouse or a child, and they kind of engage in the story, and then the loved one gets to show their expressions and their mannerisms. So sometimes they'll stick out their tongue or they'll laugh, and we're very creative about those things. As far as the energy goes, I'll just say for those people that are struggling with energy, I have seen some very, very amazing legacy videos happen in 5 minutes or less. Yeah. And it can be as simple as saying, I love you, and using your loved one's names, as well as perhaps, a short moment of like your favorite Bible verse or your favorite quote or something that means something to you. So it doesn't have to be long or exhausting.
Sure.
It can be very short and sweet. And I guarantee the people who love you will probably watch it over and over and over again.
It makes me think, even when you said like if the couple is there, even then for the kids or the loved ones to watch, or even like the spouse who's left behind, right? To be able to watch that interaction later, I bet would be a gift.
That's some of my favorites, when it's a couple and you see their natural banter and their silliness and their behavior, because it is a gift, like you said, to everyone to watch that later, right? Even if your person passes and you're missing them desperately, to be able to see how you engaged with each other in conversation is a sweet gift.
Yeah.
That reminds me of all the old couple interviews from When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I've been thinking about as we've been talking here is this is very this is great, and this building a legacy and thinking about all that. And it's what we've been talking about is centered around like families, right? Because that's who you serve. And for like myself and my wife, we don't have kids. And I know we have other listeners who don't have kids as well. And I think it's kind of another step of thinking like, okay, who is there to leave the legacy for in some ways? And I guess I don't know if I have a question or an answer here or anything, but it's just something that strikes me as, I just want to acknowledge that, because I know we do have people in that situation. And I don't know if you've worked with people in those kind of settings at all, or have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. Obviously, in the case of you and your wife, one of you is going to pass before the other, right? So I think that's a powerful reminder of just building something for that other loved one. But also, I think about legacy in like three separate categories, bigger categories of like traditions. So we all have these traditions that have followed us maybe from generation to generation. Things as simple as, we eat donuts on the first snow day of the year, or whatever. We go camping every July 4th or something. And then there are bigger traditions, like we always read the nativity story on Christmas morning or something like that. And then you have keepsakes, which are things that matter to you. Like maybe it's a piece of art, or it's a blanket that someone quilted, or a family Bible or something like that. And then you have service, which are things like we volunteer for this particular nonprofit because it means something to us, or we give to this particular nonprofit because it's doing something that really means something to us. So in those three categories, no matter if you have kids or no kids, or if you're young or old, or if you're sick or not sick, these are three areas where you have an opportunity to pass along to the people after you these things that matter to you. And so, in the case of you don't have children, maybe there are things, though, I don't know what you and your wife are particularly interested in, but you've made an impact on, the Humane Society, and they really value the impact you guys have made through your service or your giving. So I just encourage everyone to think creatively, because we're all so different. That's what makes the world so great, right? People are going to remember you for something. Gosh, I hope they remember us for something valuable and good. And am I living in a way today that echoes what I want people to remember about me? That's kind of a convicting thought to ask yourself, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah. Sort of an example of that with more of the service realm that I also thought of while we've been talking here is, prior to Sarah getting sick, I was very involved in getting a homebrew club started in our community here. And I was very involved in starting an annual competition and did a lot of training for beer judges. It's an odd example, and I put in a lot of years before she got sick, like really helping build that. And I'm not saying that to like give myself all the credit for doing that, but like through her getting sick, like that was something I couldn't participate in as much. And sometimes when you come out of something like that, you're not the same person and you don't necessarily have the same interests. So it's not something that I like re-entered afterwards. But I see the things they're doing and the things that are continuing that I was there at the beginning to help build, and the there's new waves of people, and there's people that I trained that are now training other people to do this thing, and feeling, I guess, proud of having a hand in something that has continued and, hopefully will continue, that I had a however large or small of a part in kind of building. So yeah, that's a creative outside of family and loved ones that you can, I guess, leave that for or build something. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that ripple effect too of you built this community and you don't even know the impact it's had on some of the people that are there and what a lifeline it could be in that community and group. So yeah, that people are already benefiting from the shade of your tree, the fruit of your tree. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, and Justin, think about this podcast, right?
Well, right.
And so,
yeah,
I mean, right. And
too,
so, if this is, it isn't, but like, let's pretend this was our last episode ever, right? There are 128 now episodes of our voices out there that are going to live on and conversations that people can pick up and can listen to. And so I love that, to think about it in lots of different ways.
Yeah, I love what you just said too about your voices being recorded, because we've talked a lot about legacy videos and getting on the screen and doing that with our coaches, which you should do. Everyone should do it. But also, like, we have power in our hands with these iPhones that we have now, and the voice memo app, which, those files don't take nearly as much space on a phone.
Sure.
I sometimes tell people, like, what if you just record your family dinner, or you and your wife eating dinner together, a normal Tuesday night?
Sure.
What do you talk about? What kind of things are coming up? Or your carpool line if you're a young mom driving kids to and from. And like, these are things that are capturing a moment in time that one day will be such a treasure.
Yeah.
I go back and listen to some when my kids are young adults now. When they were little, I did that all the time because I was very in this mindset of legacy building. Obviously, Kristen and I were still doing life together. So I was inspired. And those are some of my most cherished recordings, just listening to our family banter, being silly with one another. And such a sweet gift. So that's something anyone can do. If you're a caregiver, especially, you probably have a lot of time where you're interacting with your loved one in just pretty mundane ways.
Sure.
But just capturing a few minutes of that is pretty sweet too.
Yeah. We recently got, for Christmas, we got a digital picture frame.
Oh, yeah.
And it is my favorite. It is just really been like a game changer for us. It's right in our living room. We look at it constantly. We're just like, what's up there next? What's up there now? And now sort of like a palette cleansing thing I do before I go to bed is I look at like my Photos app, shows me different little like montages every day. Now, some of those can be traumatic because they're, hospitals and all of those things. But some of them are like memories that I did not remember, so like right now, actually, there's a lot of like 6 years ago, you were spraying your mail with Lysol because it was COVID, right? But there was also like we have a daughter who's 19. The three of us were like sitting around listening to this like live streaming concert of our favorite band and playing euchre around the table. And there was a video of that. And it was like, oh, remember that? And so the frame has really helped me. Like I see all these snippets and I'm like, she did have a good childhood. Look at this. Or look, we did do this or whatever. And it just is this beautiful sort of constant reminder for us of, just all of the different people in our lives that we care about and the memories we've had. And every 2 minutes or whatever, it rotates and then we get to see more. And so that's kind of a fun way to think of like the ongoing piece,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I'm thinking too about, we have people who are still listening whose person has passed, right? And who were part of this community as active caregivers. And, and they just talk about, a lot of the ones that are coming to mind are a lot of spousal caregivers who are now grieving. And, they say to me things like, just like hold on to every moment and go hug your husband. And, and I think, what would they give to be able to like turn on the video of their person right now? Right. And many of them don't have kids. So it's not a kid thing, right? It's more just that they are missing their person. I just saw this article about how when your spouse dies, it's like a sort of especially awful kind of grief and hardship because it's like an attachment. You're so attached to that person. And so I just think like what a gift it would be to a spouse to be able to like turn that on and hear their voice and see, you know, like you said, even if they just say, I love you, you know, like hear their voice, see their face, you know, see those mannerisms, whatever that is. And so, so yeah, like I'm glad you brought that up, Justin, because even though at the beginning we talked a lot about kids, I think anybody, you know, that would be such a gift to be able to hear that. Because, you know, sometimes you hear people say like, I can't remember, I'm forgetting what their voice sounded like or whatever. But if we could capture that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, how many people, or maybe you have a parent or a grandparent where you have that one last voicemail that you kept that you won't delete because
exactly.
And they say nothing meaningful. I mean, it's like, hey, see you at dinner, 5:00, bye.
Yeah.
But you keep it and you listen to it over and over and over because it's your last piece of their voice. So
yeah,
there is power in that for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think about Sarah, who she started, I don't know, probably maybe a decade ago, like writing to our nieces and nephew every month or so, like just silly little cards and printouts and things like that. And I know some of them like have kept those, right? And I guess they're in a box somewhere or something. And like, that's such a sweet thing to think about because I mean, they're all like, the oldest is like 17. So these are not like, it's not like they're young adults like who have, okay, I'm going to keep this stuff around. Like these are kids. And I don't know how long some of those are going to stay with them, but like that's something, if not the physical mail, like that is something that they experienced. And like, I think that's one of the things she hopes is that some of them will then, you know, continue that. And like the people in their lives when they're older will like find the joy in like sending physical mail to people, something that like is kind of a lost thing in this day and age.
Well, and I love that even, you know, she had a chunk of time where she was not able to interact, you know, like be with them.
That was the way she could. Exactly. Yeah.
But then they, you know, wasn't then this lost time with her. Right. And so then now they have this like literal, like physical representation of like, Aunt Sarah sent me all of these things, you know, and so how beautiful that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll give a little tip I heard from another caregiver that I really loved and I've shared with lots of people. Do that, like send the physical mail for sure. And handwriting is so cool. But someone also created like a private just email address that they just used for letters that they wrote to people they loved. And you can still write it out with your handwriting and just take a picture of it, email it to that email address. And you just have this like treasure trove of these letters or thoughts or maybe journal entries. And it's all like kind of organized in one spot so it won't get lost or destroyed in a fire or flood or something. So for those people who like practical tips, I think that's a good one.
That's a cool idea.
I stole from somebody else, but I love it.
I've heard that of like parents who, you know, set up an account for their kids or whatever, and then just like are sending them emails without the kid, and then like on their whatever birthday, or maybe when they pass or whatever, that's like all of a sudden the kid gets access to this, you know. And again, it doesn't have to be with kids, but like it just is like this place, this thing that we have access to, and so.
Yeah, and you can email voice recordings to that message too, which is it's just like an easy way to organize, right? So it doesn't all get lost in the cloud of your phone.
Yeah.
So we always like to talk to supporters at the end of the episode, and these could be friends, family, community members, anyone who's around the caregiver. And so what would you say to the supporters about this concept of legacy and the role that they could possibly help play in this, I guess for themselves, we've talked about that a little bit, but also the people that they are supporting, the caregivers they're supporting and such.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone that's coming alongside a caregiver is already creating shade and fruit from their legacy. Like, well done. I'd say keep running towards caregivers because they need support. And so I think it's awful in this world. Like most people are intimidated by illness and death. And so I'm sure you guys have experienced this. They often don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. So they turn and walk away, or they pretend like it's not happening.
Sure.
And, or they start strong, but then they're like, this is kind of lingering. I don't really know. So I would say just to continue to lean in to those people that are caregiving. And also like you're building your own legacy in that way, but also make a legacy video. Do it yourself so that you can encourage them as well. In the same way I just said, you know, when you guys are caregiving and you want your diagnosed person to do it, I think there's power in putting your money where your mouth is and doing what you say, you know, is important.
It kind of normalizes it a little bit. The more people that think about this and do that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't have a diagnosis, but I'm doing it. And so, yeah, you should too. But for those people that are supporting caregivers, I mean, I just want to also echo, like, well done. Talk about building a legacy through service. Yeah. I mean, yes, there's lots of ways to serve our community, but serving someone who is actively caregiving is, I think, a very meaningful way to spend your time. So keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, you know, to even say, because like you said, I'm so glad earlier you said the thing about like, we're not ever trying to give caregivers more to do, right? Their to-do lists are long. So if you're a supporter and you're listening, you could say, hey, I heard this podcast, you know, check this out. If you're interested in this, I could help you.
Yeah.
Right. I could go to the video thing with you. I could help you fill out the interview. Yeah. If you want to do the gift thing, like I got to wrap up, right? You know, like, because like some of that sounds like very daunting to me. Right. And so, but if someone else said, hey, I can help you do this, if this is something that sounds important to you. Right. And I think we want to try to, like, some families might be like, nope, no, thank you. Right. So we don't want to push this on them. But if you're say, hey, I heard this thing, it sounds cool, but I also know it sounds like it's got some steps involved. Do you want me to do the research? Do you want me to set it up? Do you want me to wrap the presents? You know what I mean? Like, help make it as accessible as possible.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that too, because I do want to say that caregivers are the ones working really hard. I know this. It also might be something sweet a supporter can do to help the diagnosed parent have a few surprises up their sleeve for this loved one who's been caring for them for however long. So as a supporter, you might even go straight to the diagnosed parent or person and say like, hey, I heard this podcast. There's a way that you can record yourself for your husband, wife, whoever's caregiving for you. You could be like the sweet little liaison for this magical surprise gift that comes later in life. So that's another idea too.
That's very cool. I love that. Yeah. Jill, is there anything about legacy or about Inheritance of Hope that you would like to share that you haven't had a chance to yet?
So in May, we celebrate National Legacy Month. That happens to be our Founders Day. We started in May of 2007, but National Legacy Month is an opportunity for everyone to consider their legacy intentionally. And we have a lot of activities around legacy during May on our website and on our app, which is called Hope at Home. And these are opportunities for everyone to just sort of think. We have some worksheets and some just thought-provoking questions. So people can sign up for a legacy video. They can sign up for a legacy song, and they can also just start these conversations with the people they love. So in May, every year, maybe it's a trigger for you to be intentional. Certainly you should do it every month too, but it's just such a sweet time to kind of reset and reconsider how you want to build your own legacy too.
Beautiful. Well, and I'm so glad to know about all of your services. And, you know, just to know that, because I think you said you have virtual things, right? You have in-person things monthly, you have in-person things yearly, you know, like all the different options. And so thank you for all the things that you do to support folks. And I'm glad that now our listeners can know about that as well. So
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being here and for everything that you do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. See you later.
Bye. You've been listening to In Sickness. Find us online at insickness.care or on Instagram at insicknesspodcast. You can send your questions and comments to hosts@insickness.care. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or fellow caregiver. Thanks for listening and take care. You've been listening to In Sickness. Find us online at insickness.care or on Instagram at insicknesspodcast. You can send your questions and comments to hosts@insickness.care. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or fellow caregiver.